Right, we are live. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Kiwi Lads channel. We are back for a South African derby of the URC. This one, the Bulls taking on the Lions. Now, this is the first of two South African head-to-heads that we are seeing today. The next game is a rematch of the Stormers versus Sharks, but this one very intriguing. The Bulls away from home, but they come in as slight favourites up against this Lions side. They've got a couple decent returns for this contest. Some young, talented players making their big opportunity or big chance to get into maybe more starting lineups throughout the rest of the season, but it's very intriguing to see what will happen for this contest. Looking through at the starting lineups, first of all with the home side, the Lions, it is SJ Kotsi who moves into the starting lineup alongside PJ Botha and Azanati Klabakanye, Ruben Skurman and Reniard Notangyo as the locking duo with Jared Cairns, Klakane in the number 7 jersey. Looking forward to seeing what the big man from the under-20s can do here up against the Bulls. And then Frankie Horn is again the captain in the number 8 jersey. Morne Vandenberg, he needs a big game here, partnered with Chris Smith in the number 10 jersey. Richard Creel moves out to the left wing. Bronson Mills and a return for Henko van Wyk in the number 13 jersey. Angelo Davids out on the right wing, and Kieran Horn, he is there as 15. Looking through at the Bulls starting lineup, it is Jan Hendrik Wessels, Johan Krobelaar and Wilco Lowe. So again, power up front for this Bulls team. Ruan Vermaak alongside Reniard Ludwig as the number 5. Marcel Kutsia, the captain, at 6. Elric Lowe at 7. And Jandre Rudolph as the 8. So still no Cameron Honeycomb, but he is getting closer and closer to a return. Hopefully we do see it in the next month or so. And Bros Papier alongside Andre Pollard is that 9 and 10 combination. So Zach Berger, he's been getting a fair few starting minutes for the Bulls, but in this case, he is going to be making his way, I think, off for the bench. In fact, no, they may not even have him off the bench for this game. I believe they've gone with, I'll just lean a little bit. Yeah, they've gone with that 6-2 split with Keegan Johannes as a little bit of cover there. Kurtley Arendse out on the left wing. Harold Foster and Stedman Hans in the midfield. And then Stravino Jacobs and Devin Williams. They are the other two across the Bulls' backline. Is South Africa out of the final? They are not. They are through to the semi-final, and they will have France as their opposition for the upcoming Singapore 7 semis. Bulls all the way, says Ben there. Lions by 1 or more, please, says Studs Rays. Yeah, would be a big win for this Lions side, but currently the Bulls, they're on a little bit of a streak. Now, it's not a massive one. Heading into this round, this is how these sides did sit. Now, I do have an updated table since then, but just at the start of this round of rugby, we did see the Lions, they were sitting in 7th on 24 points. The Bulls, they were sitting in 9th on 20 points. Now, they have had themselves 2 wins in a row, one in the Champions Cup, one in the URC in just last week's game. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the updated table, and you will see a little bit of movement here. As you see, the Bulls, they dropped down to 10th because of the draw that we saw for Benetton in their game up against the Scarlets. It gave them the additional points that boosted them above. Currently for that Bulls side, they're going to need something big soon, or else they may just find themselves competing up against a fellow South African side in the Sharks. They have got a big game up against the Stormers a little bit later on today, and that could determine out of those two sides who advances and also who misses out. Theoretically, all 4 South African sides can still qualify in the top 8. It's not impossible, but it's a little bit improbable with what some of the other sides are doing in the comp. But looking through at recent form, first of all for the Lions, this is what they have started their 2026 with. A win over the Sharks by 1 point. That was in Durban. Once again, the type of game that the Sharks really would have liked to win to go and advance that little bit further on the standings. They won up against Lyon in the Challenge Cup, and that draw up against Perpignan, 20 points to 20, actually knocked them out of the Challenge Cup competition, narrowly missing out due to points differential. And then another draw, so 2 in a row for the Lions. Now, that game up against the Ospreys, the weather was awful, but somehow the Lions were able to get themselves an away draw, which honestly, at this stage of the season, can be extremely valuable when it comes to those points for the Bulls. Well, they were on a losing streak that a lot of Bulls fans will want to forget, but for now, they're on a winning streak. They have won their last 2 games by the 2 points. The first one up against Po in the Champions Cup, so that qualified them. They will take on the Glasgow Warriors in the round of 16, and then that contest last week up against Edinburgh, in which they were able to win it 19 points to 17. But this one's away from home as well, and they currently have a better record away from home in their last few games than they do actually have at home. So this could be a good result for the Bulls. They can find that momentum and continue a little bit from where they left off from their game up against Edinburgh. We have got there you go Lions, says Francis or Francina. And there's Zach Pollard, says Mohadeen. Pollard might fall off, says Splash TV. And also did someone here from Casper again. I think he won 125k on the draw between Lions versus Ospreys. He only bets draw, says Xander. And hi, Alan Hamish, says Robert. Welcome in. Hope you're doing extremely well. Just looking at what is to come for these two sides, because there is actually a little bit of a lack of matches coming up for these teams. The Lions and the Sharks, they are playing in 21 days' time now. So the next 2 weeks, we aren't going to see the South African sides in action at all. But Lions versus Sharks, a rematch of what is often a very close fixture, just like we saw at the start of the year when those two sides went head-to-head, and it was the 1-point thriller with the win going the way of the Lions. They will now be defending their home turf up against the Sharks. And in those 3 weeks, then they have the Stormers. So another South African derby in the first day of March, or that will be the last day of February for you guys in South Africa. And then also Edinburgh and the Dragons, the next 2 games for this Lions side. But as you can see, one of those games has taken place in about, I believe it would be 9 weeks' time. Or sorry, that would actually be 8 weeks. So throughout the next 8 weeks, they only play 4 games of rugby for this Lions team. For the Bulls, they are in the same boat. Their next game is not actually going to be in 2 weeks, or sorry, 3 weeks' time. It is in 4 weeks that they do go head-to-head with the Sharks. Then from there, they play up against the Stormers. Now, these ones are normally during rounds of the Six Nations for the South African derbies. And then after that, Cardiff and Munster in 57 days' time. So next round of the URC, just to confirm, first match taking place in 3 weeks. Then from there, there is a full round taking place in the 4 weeks' time. And these are all the games that are happening. But this game is getting very close to kickoff. Ladies and gentlemen, just the 5 minutes away from the start of this contest. Hi all, says Robert, and Pollard de Klerk LaRue must have to retire. I assume you're talking Faf de Klerk rather than Sebastian de Klerk, even though the other 2 players you've listed are from the Bulls. We have got their Bulls look like a different team without Jake White. Maybe Hamish should get Jake on the show so that he can tell us exactly what he thinks of this Bulls team. Says, and although to be fair to the Bulls, they have had to fight through a pretty tough patch. And now slightly coming out on the other side, 2 wins in a row. Something that even, a few weeks ago seemed almost impossible for this Bulls team. But if they can get a win here, not only do they get themselves back up towards that top 8, but they put themselves in a decent position to have, I'd like to say, that little bit of momentum heading forward. Hamish must join the Bulls. Says Mohadeen there. And Lions will go home disappointed today, says Calvin. Well, the good news is they are at home, so they won't have to travel far if they are disappointed. But the Bulls, they will either travel home very happy or very sad, I would say, after this 80 minutes of rugby. Now, this game's going to be played at altitude, although both of these sides are used to it. We have good there. Are they out if they lose, says Mohadeen? Not at all. I think there's still plenty of time left in this URC competition. Once again, this is the way that the table sits currently. The Bulls, they are sitting on 20. If they win this game comfortably, they will move up to 7th, and they will replace the Lions in that 7th place position. They would drop down to 8th. Now, there's plenty more that can happen. The Sharks, they have got their game up against the Stormers. If they win that game, then that gives them a nice boost. If the Stormers win, they can slowly get back towards Glasgow. Currently a 2-match difference between those 2 teams, although once this game between Stormers and Sharks ends, I'll be back to only 1 game difference. But I'm in Glasgow. They have only lost the 2 games throughout this year. 3 losses for 3 of the other sides inside of the top 8, including Leinster, Cardiff, and also Ulster. Now, Cardiff and Ulster play each other in this round of the URC. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on. I'm sorry, I don't really see why the Bulls are struggling. They have so many Springboks. That is what people have said about the Sharks for the past 2 years. They're a side that are absolutely stacked from start to finish, but when it comes to the URC, something just doesn't seem to click. The Bulls, they're starting to find that rhythm a little bit. Tough win up against Edinburgh last week, even more brutal win up against Poe the week prior. But the question is, was that just a flash in the pan, or are the Bulls maybe back, starting to get maybe a step in the right direction? Munster look like they're on a big skid, so they look likely to drop out, says Fleshin. Can you do in the Dragons game? We won't be doing the Dragons contest, unfortunately, as it is taking place a little bit later on. Plus, we've got the Sevens that I'm going to be covering tomorrow, Justice for Jake. I think it depends on how they finish in the season. Like, if they still manage to win the Champions Cup or the URC this year, I feel like, like they'll say they made the right decision. If they finish lower than Jake White had them finishing, then they'll say maybe it was a bit of the new coach nerves. But yeah, I don't know how Jake White would feel about how they're playing at the moment. He'd probably think that maybe they're underperforming by quite some way, but it's hard to tell. And once again, like, Pollard's come back, and since he's been back, he's actually had a terrible winning record for this Bulls side, which is just not normal for a player like Pollard. Definitely because didn't his side make it to the final in the Premiership? As weird as a Glasgow fan I look, it's weird as a Glasgow fan, I look forward to watching a game that doesn't really care who wins, says Kahu. So that's just called being a rugby fan rather than a Glasgow fan. Bottlers FC, says Splash. Okay, then explain why the Lions do so well, even though they are least best team in the 4 in the URC, says Reno. I'd say it's because of the lack of expectations on them. This Lions side, they have always been one of the teams that I thoroughly enjoy watching because they don't have the list of players who should be able to have outstanding games. They've got a lot of young talent. Normally, when someone does very well for the Lions, one of the other teams end up buying them away from the Lions, and then they're back to the start again. But I do think that for this Lions side, because of the fact that they lack the Springboks, they don't actually lose those big players week in, week out. Certain weeks we have seen other teams having to rest Springbok players as the mandatory stand-down, whereas the Lions can still pick them and just keep on working away as that quiet assassin out of the South African teams. Sack, Pollard, Marnie and Sasha. So who's your 10 then? You're getting rid of all 3 of your Springbok 10s in that case. Who was the number 10 under Jake White last year? So he had a bit of Keegan Johannes. He also, I think he had Chris Smith actually. Chris Smith transferring to the Lions more recently though. Are you going to be split screening the other game when the Stormers play? Says Kahu. Probably. I'll end up keeping an eye on it as well. Chislin Colby says Mohaddin. But the Bulls have made their way out onto the field with Marcel Kurtzia leading this side out there. Needs a big game alongside Eldrick Lowe, as well as Yandre Rudolph, who will always give an absolute massive performance for his team, who benefits the most from the draw here. Says Big Rig Joe. I would say, it's different at the moment. Because start of the season, you'd say Lions would benefit from getting a draw. But I think at this stage, it's the Bulls. Because if they can get a draw and get points away from home, that would be massive for them. Definitely because of all the games that they've been struggling with. Rudolph, yeah, says Ruth. I love a good derby game. Go the Lions who are underdogs, says Andrew there. And also Vermaak for the tries today. Also, you're giving the big man, Ruan Vermaak, a try for this contest. Sounds like they're playing John Cena's entrance music at the moment. Of course, Royal Rumble coming up in the near future. I think that's happening in about 6.5 hours or something like that. In New Jersey, it's 0 degrees waking up. That's very brutal. I hope your house has got good insulation, Robert, or else probably be quite chilly. Matthew Pearce going to be on the commentary here, but referees in charge of this contest. Hopefully we won't see a huge amount of them throughout this game, and instead it is just going to be us sitting back and enjoying the match alongside all the people in attendance, Johannesburg, and the new arena that took 20 days to build. Yeah, that's pretty incredible, isn't it? That it only took 20 days, but now getting ready to kick this one off, it will be Kieran Horn going from the left to the right. And the best thing is, the scoreboard's going to update itself with a little bit of luck. Barbados Dinosaur Juice, says Robert. They're just talking about the fact that the Lions have had 2 draws, so they don't really want 3 draws in a row, I wouldn't think. Although, to be fair, if it means that they get some form of points rather than a loss, I think they'd take it, but it's kicked off long, taken by Jandre Rudolph for the first carry of the contest. This is also going to feel like an extremely long game, only because we've done so many games of sevens today, which have been over in a flash. Now rolling this one back. Bros Papier kicks this one up high. And it will not find touch, though. It looks like it's going to be slapped back onto the side of the Bulls again. Nicely done by the away side. Now rolling this one back again. It will be Ambros Papier. Just decide to go up high. Kurt Liarense chasing after this one. Going up for it. Ends up spinning awkwardly. And the ball will bounce back up for Klakane. Decides to carry it himself. Gets through Johan Krobela's attempt. Lions in a pretty good spot on the table, says Kahu. Yeah, if they can get some form of points from this game, but the pass a little bit too high. Actually called his forward as well from the referee. But yeah, if they can get even a losing bonus point or 2 losing bonus points from this match, still puts them in a great position. We have good there as an impartial and just a rugby fan. I don't think that the Bulls went the right way with the coach they chose. They went from a World Cup winner to a Japanese coach. Says Reino. Yeah, see, I feel like they'll have a big review at the end of the season. It's very hard to tell now, though, if that makes sense. I'm still waiting to see if they can make some sort of miraculous fix in the second half of the season, because any new coach is always going to have a little bit of, that training wheels time where they need that opportunity to try and find their rhythm with the team. But, yeah, it's definitely been much rougher or much more difficult for this Bulls side than they expected early on. And good afternoon, Hamish. Trust you well. And good afternoon, everyone. Says Philip, welcome in. I did actually show the shirt earlier on, Philip. This one, I worked out that it kind of goes see-through, but there you go, the big old Springbok in there as well. But yeah, haven't worn it yet. We'll have to at some stage. There's a big gap between 7, like the rest. Can you please show the table? Says Kahu. That's going to be a nice attacking run from the Bulls. We will show it in a very short moment. Hal Foster doing 4 roly-polies. Now Elric Lowe. It's the ball up again. Nice run from Ruan Vermaak. Was picked as someone who could score a try in this contest. The big lock. There we go. That is the table, the way that it sits at the moment. Whoever wins this game can really make a nice leapfrog. Or if it is the Lions, they can create a bit of separation between them and the rest of the pack. Now the Bulls, they have moved to 12 metres out from the try line. Bros Papier. Elric Lowe, 8 phases in a row here. Papier again goes across to Reniard Ludwig. Now Pollard decides to run it himself. That doesn't happen too often. I think we just saw why PJ Botha almost managed to get the steal in the breakdown. Jan Hendrik Wessels again. Another carry. It's all about sharing it round for the Bulls at the moment, finding that gap in the opposition defence. But now, though, the Lions have been solid. Morne Vandenberg almost getting the all-important turnover. Now another tackle made. This time by Jared Kens. And Bros Papier, he went across to Jan Hendrik Wessels, who has dropped the ball. And a great kick downfield from the Lions, gaining them about 50 metres in terms of that territory battle. Wonder when Cameron Honeycomb will return. I think it's soon, within the next month or so, or maybe when they come back from about that 4-week hiatus for the Bulls. That might be roughly when we start to see him back. I guess you have to wear it if the Box beat the All Blacks. Says Big Rig there. And also we have got there how many games in hand do the Stormers have over Glasgow. So the Stormers are 2 games behind Glasgow Warriors. So once they play this game up against the Sharks, they'll still be 1 game behind. So theoretically, same games played as Glasgow, they can still be above them on the standings. If the All Blacks beat the Box, you wear a New Zealand hoodie. If it's a draw, I don't know, you wear an Aussie hoodie, I guess. Says Big Rig. Now back across to, it will be Reniard Ludwig again in the middle of the field. Now rolling it back. And Bros Papier ready for another box kick. Kane going for the half attempt, being able to charge it down. Sereno Jacobs tries to slap it back onto the side of the Bulls. I will mention he is playing 11 by the looks of his back, so I think they've moved Kurt Liarense out to the other wing for this contest. Nice offload from Marcel Kurtzia. Went to Johan Krobela, who just ends up dropping it. Slipped through his fingertips. I think they wanted to go back for an initial penalty. Surprise packages Ulster. How they are playing, I think they could be something amazing given time. Yeah, see, they're a team that I've picked to get through to the semi-finals. of the competition, which I know is a bit risky, but I just feel like at the moment, like, they've had some incredible games. And like you said, they just seem to have something about them. I guess you could say it's box kick, says Big Rig. And six tries or more, and Weird Stadium just looks weird. Weird Stadium just looks weird. In what regard does it look weird? Because of the red seats? It's actually a very nice looking stadium, to be fair to them. I had some lunch, so I was a bit full, says Kyle. What did you have for lunch, Kyle? Do let me know. But 5 minutes into this contest, and the scrum feed here for the Lions, 30 metres out from their line, going back across to the left this time, finding the hands of Bronson Mills, playing inside centre for the game. Klakane puts in the big fend, and he is certainly one that a lot of people are picking as a massive Springboks prospect for the future, not just based on the size of the man. Morne Vandenberg, little bit of a shuffle there, gets it away to Reniard Lofagno. A directional change for Frankie Horn, the captain. Looks like the Roman legionary column is marching towards you, says Big Rig. And also, let's go, says Dale. Would you rather lose the tour whitewash or win the Nations Cup? Says Splash TV. Would you rather lose the tour whitewash or win the Nations Cup? Would you rather lose the tour or win? So the way you've written that, you win the Nations Cup. Because you haven't said, like, you can only pick one. Like, you've said, would you rather lose a series or win a competition? I would rather win a competition if it was up to me. I have some chicken and rolls. I'll film with some beverage. Says Kyle. Talk Afrikaans. I don't really know Afrikaans. That kick hasn't found the touchline for the Lions, though, so that is a massive error. Now Pollard goes across to Tarvino Jacobs. He was inside of the 22. Goes down the middle of the park. Sits up for Kieran Horn. Was considering a 50-22 of his own, but instead will run it back at the Bulls defence. Marcel Coetzee straight in the breakdown. Wins the turnover penalty for the Bulls side. And Bulls start charging, says Ruth. Great bit of work from the captain of this Bulls team. Currently 7 minutes through in this match, so it would be half time in a game of sevens. Speaking of, they are going to be playing, I believe the Blitz box will be in action. 1 second, I'll refresh. I believe they're going to be playing at, where is it? It's about 8 p.m. or so. Yeah, 8:14 p.m. is when they are going to be playing. That'll be a bit of an intriguing one. Does Azanati pass that drug test, or is he going to follow the guy from the Sharks band? So he's still playing Azanati Klabakanye. So I think it all got cleared because of the fact that, like, it kind of got blown up out of proportion a little bit, I think. But that's what the media does. But yeah, he didn't even really miss many games whatsoever for anyone, other than maybe the Box. I do not want the Bulls in the round of 16 for Glasgow, says Kahu. What about win the Rugby World Cup but lose every international game outside of the Rugby World Cup until the next one? Would you do it? Says Big Rig. It's a tricky one because I feel like you've seen what happens when a New Zealand coach has a 74% win record. They get sacked. So, losing 100% of the other games, you probably, whoever the new coach is who gets in for that World Cup, obviously would love the job up until they lose for the next 4 years. So I think people would still take the World Cup, though, wouldn't they? And are they playing tonight, the Blitzbox? They will be playing tomorrow, South African time, in the morning at around 9:14 a.m. But in Bros Papier, now Andre Pollard tries to go through, but he's tackled by Azanati Klabakanye. Foster gets over the try line between the posts. It was a good attack and run, and he kind of lost his footing, then got back up and continued to go towards that line and goes over for the Bulls' first try. When is midnight in South Africa? It's 7:01 or 12:15 your time. So midnight in South Africa is at 11 a.m. New Zealand time. And Glasgow look very good at the moment. They get a home draw for the next round. I can't see them losing. Says Fleshin. A good point. Who does New Zealand go with since time is so narrow before the World Cup? They're talking about either Jamie Joseph or Dave Rennie. They seem to be the two front runners. I know that Jamie Joseph would have loved to have Tony Brown as one of his coaches, but that doesn't seem like it's going to be an option. Joe Schmidt, someone who they wanted as an assistant, he's not going to be doing that. So yeah, it might be the best of the rest they get left with. Andre Pollard now to line up the additional two. It is straight out in front of the post, and he decided to use as many seconds as he physically could there. Just stalling the clock a little bit, giving his side a bit of time to regather their breath. Harold Foster just getting through that tackle attempt initially, and then slid through to score that first try. Glasgow Rangers, a Highland fling. And well, let's go, boys. Here's Ruth. Now Q1 Horn, he is ready to take this kickoff. I realise how incredible it is that in 19th century they said, right, everyone measure time in the exact same way. And to this day, 99% of the world just went, yeah, all right. Yeah, it's probably one of the only things the whole world has agreed on throughout the last century or so. Tough call, why not recall the English women's coach? Because he has re-signed with England through to 2029, I believe. He signed right through to the next World Cup. And consider how hard it is to get humans to agree on anything. Says Big Rig, exactly. But now, it's going to be knocked back by Kutliarensis, so the position for the Bulls now on the halfway line. Jan-Hendrik Wessels goes across to Pollard. This is going to be dangerous. Good attack and run straight through the gap for Harold Foster, the try scorer. He goes for a grabber. Sylvino Jacobs chases after it, just has a fumble as he tries to put it down. It's a nice bit of work from Henko Funfake to get back and make those meters. Did it miss? No. Pollard did get it over straight down the middle. 12 minutes in and it's currently 7-0 for this Bulls side. What is the game of the round? Stormers, Sharks or Ulster and Cardiff? I think it depends on what Stormers and Sharks side show up. Ulster Cardiff's the safe bet, but Stormers Sharks has huge potential of being an absolutely brilliant game. But we need both teams to be at their best for that to happen. And afternoon, Hamish come on the Lions. Says, how's it there? Yeah, they are currently 7-0 down, but they've had some decent moments throughout this one. I'm sure Rob Lowe and Jennifer Connolly are on different clocks. They're not aging at the same places, same pace as the rest of us. And what sort of crowd there? It isn't as full as we've seen for some of the South African derbies, but it's still decent enough. I'd say maybe 20%, 25% full. Probably 20. I think 25 might be a bit generous. Pollard Foster again. Running well, says Roof. Yeah, those two linking up quite nicely. And that combination of 10 and 12 for the Bulls currently. This ball again is going to be put in by the Lions. Morne Vandenberg. So there are probably big question marks around who Russ is actually going to go with in his 9 options for the year. I'd assume Grant Williams is there. Reinach, you would think, would be too. But outside of those two, does he go Morne Vandenberg? Does he go with Hassim Pede, a youngster? And Bros Papier, Zach Berger? Who else are the 9s around the world at the moment? Or around South Africa? Do they recall Faf de Klerk? Give him a chance. Jaden Hendrickse, is he somehow in the mix? Stephen Ngura, get someone even older than Reinach in there. Our Lions will come out better in the second half since their last game. They had so much red ball push in the last quarter, says Reno. If the Box win back-to-back World Cup, would they decline? If the Box win back-to-back World Cup, would they decline? Would they decline what? Like having the World Cup? I doubt it. Nicely taken. Travino Jacobs. It's well under the high ball. I think we'll see plenty of new faces in the first couple of tests before the Rivals tour. Says, how's it? And who would want to be New Zealand coach, or the way player power could force you out, says Sean. Yeah, that's the big one going around at the moment, isn't it? Henko Funfake looking for the turnover. Does just lose his footing. Oh, there's a bit of a wrestle there with Kutliarensis, a battle with the guys with the headgear on. Now, Jan-Hendrik Wessels does a double spin. If he's starting to get dizzy, he'll have to make sure he spins the other way now. And Ross Papier sends it high once more. Arnse. First man to react, but it's taken by Richard Creel, who finds his offload to PJ Bota, and all of a sudden the Lions got themselves a counter-attack in the middle of the field. Bronson Mills tries to fend. Taken by Elric Lowe. Do you think Kieran Horn is an underrated player? I think that, like, compared to the other sides, he doesn't get anywhere near as much credit as he should. Because, you know, he's playing for a side in the Lions, which are normally considered as the lower of the South African teams. But he's always a player who will make your meters. He has good kicking on him too, in terms of those tactical kicks in behind. We're so good we don't even want the damn trophy. Keep that trash, we'll just keep beating you. Says Big Rig. Springboks look better. Every other team has declined. Says Kahu. And decline in the sense of there's not a lot to prove. Decline in the sense of there's not a lot to prove. I have to read your first one. If the Boks win back-to-back World Cups, like they already have, would they decline in the sense that there's not a lot to prove? So what are you trying to say? That you're going to go, we've won too many World Cups, so we no longer want this anymore? Like, you're saying that they're going to just go stagnant, or they're just going to leave? What's the logic behind it, Splash TV? You're confusing me. And that would hurt this guy. Yeah, it was really ugly landing, and they are going TMO here. Maybe too small for the Springboks, says Reno. And Horn is very physical and quick, and England has shown some form, but it never lasts long, says How's it. They are just checking on the player. Richard Creel went up for it and then lands very hard on his back after Kurtley Arendse takes him out in the air. Ask Brazil if they don't care about their 5 FIFA World Cup wins. Yeah, really hard landing for Richard Creel, and he's actually hit the ground that hard. It's kind of torn up the turf. Plus he clears Juan, says Splash TV. And these dudes live for this. They'd never decline the title, says Big Rig. And let's hope no horrible injury, says Ruth. Right, it's no position to contest, so Kurtley Arendse, he will be sent off the field now for the next 10 minutes. The field is really cutting up. Groundsman doing some work. Yeah, I saw they had about 3 guys out there trying to fix the turf in that little bit of a break. I still think Van Wyk would be better at 12. Says, how's that? Agreed, England should do some damage. Still, it's an amazing improvement, says Reno. Richard Creel, big smile on his face. So that's good news. The fact that it could have been a much worse landing and a big injury for Richard Creel, but instead, it's back up, running around again. Kurtley Arendse, not quite what he would have wanted. I've just said there that he committed to chasing after it and then just didn't quite get up quick enough or high enough, really. And it is an unfortunate one. Once again, could have been much worse for Creel. He actually landed elbow first on the ground, so that easily could have been a break for him. And now line out throw for PJ Bota. Contested nicely. Lions slap it back. Bulls slap it back. Lions knock it on. Ref says play on. Now they go back for the knock on. It's the best South African club team in the URC overall. At the moment, the Stormers are sitting at the top of the bunch. So you'd have to say them, but there are certainly other sides that, when they play their best rugby, can be extremely competitive and give the Stormers a run for their money, just like last week when we saw the Sharks managed to get that win. How you been, says John? I've been doing all right. It's currently 2 a.m. in New Zealand, so I've been up for about 20 hours. But still plenty of rugby. Still another South African derby just around the corner. Have you been watching the cricket? Quinton de Kock playing some beautiful cricket? I actually haven't, which seems like a shame. And in fact, this is going to sound bad, but I can't even remember who South Africa are playing at the moment. I know that Australia are playing Pakistan. New Zealand are playing India, and they're actually playing a T20 in about 40 minutes. Who's South Africa playing at the moment? Is it Sri Lanka? When I meant overall, I meant like ever, not just this year. Says Carl. I feel like that one's very hard to judge, though, because each side has had an era where they've been that little bit stronger. If they win the 3rd World Cup, they would decline because it wouldn't be competitive anymore. I think try telling that to the players. They'll probably tell you to go stick that where the sun don't shine, because like no team, like England at the moment in the Women's World Cup, look like they're a shoo-in to win it most times, or at least their games, but they don't go, oh well, we won't play any matches because we're so good. West Indies, says how's it? And Oz versus Pakistan in the West Indies, says Rohan there. I don't even know if those games are being shown in New Zealand, which is quite a shame. Are they on YouTube anywhere for the ones up against the West Indies for the South Africans? And conjecting as if you look at club level, they should be doing well. England vowed to invest £500 million into rugby, which I think is about 1.2 billion New Zealand dollars. It's a decent chunk of change. I'm pretty sure South Africa will want as many World Cups as possible, says Kahu. Yeah, I don't think they'll retire from trying to win them. I think they'll just keep on going. Because at this stage, they've already made history with winning the most World Cups. Why not set history and win 3 in a row? Make even bigger history. Because the thing is, if they can do that, theoretically, no other side can match that in the theoretically next 11 years after the World Cup. It would have to be 3 in a row. Promotion teams all suck, says Sven. When do you think the first time all 4 South African teams make the playoffs at one time? It could be coming up. You know, at the moment, the way that it sits, I feel like the Lions and the Bulls, as well as the Sharks, they are all in a position where they can stay within that top 8 if they get 1 or 2 wins under their belt. The South African derbies will hurt them a little bit, but they've still got enough other games to be able to get that boost. Would be nice if Honeycomb returned already. Yeah, it's been a while, and it seemed like when he was named in that Champions Cup travelling side, like they may, I don't know. It'll be interesting because he should be back, I would say, like a month ago. I thought he was going to come back, but he's still probably a month away. England is coming, says Reno there. Real Madrid used to win everything, but they declined, says Flash TV. You see, that's probably a little bit different from rugby, though, because you got to remember how much money's in football compared to rugby. I give that man a bells and some rice, says Martin. Honeycomb, we miss you, says Ruth. Just showing that scrum, it has gone down and the advantage was in favour of the Bulls. Got evidence Hamish signed a contract with New Zealand, says Mohadin. As in like with the All Blacks or just with New Zealand, the country? And stuff 3 in a row. They might want 10 World Cups in a row, says Kahu. Although Splash TV says by the time they get to that stage, they'll start declining the competition and won't want to play anymore. Lions need a smaller stadium, says Sean. It's a big one, that is for sure. When it's sold out, it looks great, but when it's not, it just looks a little bit bare. But at least the seats are red. It kind of helps a little bit. But 21 minutes through at the moment, the Bulls are again on attack. They have got a man disadvantage, remember. Kurtley Aldense, he has made his way off of the field, but you wouldn't think it at the moment with the amount of possession that the Bulls have had as of late. And Bros Papier goes across to Marcel Kutsia. That is a massive knock-on from Andre Pollard. Now another big chance to get something going here. A bit of a counter-attack. Oh, penalty goes the way of the Lions. It's a tackle. He's just thrown the ball away. And Bros Papier, he was refusing to give it up. He was not happy with the referee's decision there. And Bulls all the way, says Dion. And there as well. One second, we'll go like that. We will go like that as well. Right, referee just having a bit of a conversation there with his TMO. Not like I'm missing him, but Villas says, Didi, yeah, missing from this game. I'm not sure if that's injury based or whether they're just resting him. They've got Devin Williams in that 15 jersey instead. But yeah, it does feel a little bit weird watching a Bulls side without a Villy out there. And Bulls all the way, says Dion. It looks like Chris Smith is going to be lining up this 3-pointer for the Lions that would give them some form of points in the first 22 minutes. And that one's gone over. Arrest the old man, says Reno. Now 3 points to 7. Hey, Hamish, does Mexico have a team? And are they any good? They do have a women's sevens team. Mexico, they did struggle in Tier 3's competition for the sevens. I believe South Africa actually beat them, fun fact. About 50 points to not many. But we've got the cool-down break for the two sides currently. There will be a couple of those throughout the contest where the players get the ice pack, a little bit of a drink too. Keep them nice and cool. Raring to go for the rest of this game. Okay, cool, thanks, says DD. And what's the biggest stadium in South Africa? I'm not sure what the biggest capacity. We'll have a quick look. Biggest South African rugby stadium. What are we going to learn in terms of sizes? The biggest is a FNB Stadium in Johannesburg, 94,700. Ellis Park has 62,000. And then it's Cape Town Stadium with 55. Loftus is the next biggest, and then Kings Park, by the looks of that, in terms of the order. And Durban is blistering hot today, says DD. Yes, you'd assume that other game taking place between the Sharks and the Stormers, we would get to see it as well. And I heard India and Pakistan have been creating rugby teams. Is that true? Rugby in India is actually more popular than a lot of people realise. They started up a whole rugby sevens competition, like a IPL equivalent in rugby. They called it the RPL, and it wasn't really broadcast a huge amount in terms of like accessibility and hype around the comp, but you know, there's time. The big Southern Hemisphere Stadium, a bit of a poison chalice. They look great a few times. They are full, but awful when they are half empty. What are decent crowds everywhere else, says Fleshin. Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like 20% of the stadium, or even 15% to be fair, would still be a decent crowd with like a stadium for 10,000 people, for instance. But yeah, there's a lot of empty seats at the moment. The Bulls have only had to make 12 tackles. You can't be on top forever, Hamish. The decline. Well, I hope it comes in 2028. Wait, so are you talking about like a decline as in like they're going to get worse? Or are you saying like a decline as in like you were saying they're going to turn down taking part in the comp? Because I feel like they're two very different things. The first one, I agree with that at some stage a side that is very good will have a down patch, but then normally they go back up. But in terms of like turning down taking part in a World Cup because they feel they're too good for it, that's just never going to happen. Hamish, you scored for both sides. So Chris Smith got the 3-pointer for the Lions, and then Harold Foster was the man who managed to score the try for the Bulls. And also Kutli Arden, so he is currently off the field with a yellow card. But he'll be close to returning now, going short side. Mone van den Berg, he actually tried to milk a offside penalty there, trying to get that ball into Stedman Hans, but he was quick enough to get back onside. Ball stolen there by Ruan Vermaak, who goes for a kick in behind the big man. He's going to get a 50-22 if this ball keeps on curling. But will stay in the field of play, picked up by Chris Smith, who goes to the short side, puts in the fin. Mone van den Berg gets the inside pass. Richard Creel goes to Henko van Wyk. Just couldn't quite link up with Bronson Mills. There was almost a chance of a steal in the breakdown for the Bulls. The Lions still in possession. That was an ugly chop tackle from Jan-Hendrik Wessels. Now kicked him behind, looking for a 50-22. Ball bounces steeply. Back into the hands of Pollard. How much time left for the yellow card? I think he's got maybe like half a minute remaining. If not, he'll be, yeah, looks like he's standing up now from his chair. So he could be out there within a minute easily. Maybe even now. Might make his way back out there. think they are just waiting to work it out. Is he back out there? Aronson, no, still on the sideline. What is your favourite stadium in rugby? I'm too indecisive for that, but I'd say, I like the look of Eden Park. Just looks nice. New stadium in Christchurch looking pretty decent too. Overseas stadiums, Murrayfield's national anthem is pretty incredible. Cape Town Stadium looks great. Loftus looks like an absolute awesome location. The Springboks are going to have a down patch as the players are getting really old, even though they have been blooding. But we will see. Says Reno. Our Lions haven't been able to break through. Yeah, they've been trying there, and it was like a pretty decent line break for them just before, where they just kept on shoveling that ball onto new options, and they just couldn't quite get through. Hi, Amish says, please and teas, welcome in. Loftus is great. Says Satana, that's a pass on the outside, going to Frankie Horn. And again, the tackle on him by Stravino Jacobs. Clubber Kanye passes back to Bronson Mills, chipping behind from the youngster, gets it to bounce, so nicely done. And it will now be a line out for the Bulls. Loftus is great. If they win 3 World Cups back-to-back, it will create a sense of relaxation. Says Splash TV, and Lions always play with the ball first before roasting. There's Mr. Bovril. And yeah, I think we've learned from that Lions game up against the Ospreys, as long as they're close, near the end of the game, they can do something decent. So, yeah, I definitely would not put it past them. But, yeah, it's a tricky one. Because both these sides, at the moment, I feel like they've kept an all right pace. No one's going absolutely crazy trying to go full field try time after time. But I'd say by about 60 minutes, there's going to be some pretty tired bodies out there on the field. G'day, mates. Says Wenmar, welcome in. Bronson Mills, known for his bar fights. Says Neil Beston, do you think the USA can turn their team around for the World Cup? If they don't, it could be a disaster. I think the reality is the MLR probably hasn't grown as much as they want it to at this stage. And they maybe haven't quite been getting the results they've been after, which does make it hard. But, yeah, I don't know. They're through to, are they in the 2027 World Cup, the US? Or did they miss out on that one? I can't quite remember. I know that there was the repechage tournament between Samoa, Chile, Belgium, and it was going to be Brazil, but it ended up being, or it was going to be Brazil. Sorry, it was going to be Paraguay, because they beat Brazil. Then Paraguay said, we don't have an eligible player, so it's back to Brazil. Now, going downfield. Oh, nicely taken there once more. In fact, I think the USA may have beaten Samoa in that 5th place final of the Pacific Nations Cup, and that's what got them to the qualification. I guess the Paraguay thing was weird, says Big Rig. Yeah, it was quite confusing because they beat Brazil, and they were like, yep, we're sweet as, and then they said, oh, actually, he's not allowed to play for us, so we just forfeit any chance of going. Andre Pollard kicking it out on the full again here for the Bulls. Another mistake coming from the veteran. Yeah, we won and we weren't allowed to play, so go ahead, Brazil. Says Big Rig. Yeah, and then they just fed Brazil to the Wolves, who got beaten badly in most of their games, although one of them was quite close for Brazil, I think. It wasn't World Rugby that did it. They did it themselves, says Big Rig. Yeah, they kind of admitted to it, but I guess that was because they knew that it would get checked, and they didn't want to be that side that had to then go, yeah, we kind of knew, but we didn't tell you. Johan Krubela now claiming this ball inside of the 22 for the Bulls after the knock-on from the Lions. Stedman Hans popping it back. Thought about the pass, but instead gets tackled by Henko van Wyk before he can make the decision. Now kicked him behind from Devin Williams. That's going to be the equivalent of a 50-22 as the ball hits into the hands of Kewan Horn and bounces into touch. I feel for the club who were going to sign Rasi in 2031. I guess I am just hate bright stadiums, says Kahu. And Brazil are a joke as usual, says Katzenel. And Pollard has a hefty boot. Yeah, so far he's been putting a little bit too much juice on it. Andre Pollard, he's put it out on the full, I believe, twice so far in this game. But now a chance here after a brilliant kick from Devin Williams to create another attacking chance for this Bulls side. Johan Krobela goes into the front to Ruan Vermaak, breaking off the back as the captain Kutsia for being dragged down by Morne Vandenberg. Pick and go from Harold Foster. Now Krobela again, off to Yandre Rudolph, 5 metres out from the line for the Bulls. They have already scored once in this contest, and perhaps there is the chance for another one. Have you ever followed Super Rugby Americas? I haven't. It's quite hard to find here in New Zealand, unfortunately. Ambros Papier, back across to Reinhard Ludwig. 1 metre out. Short ball from Ambros Papier, finds Elric Lowe's hands. Thought about going to Jan-Hendrik Wessels. Pollard drops the head, tries to go himself, but he's not quite the big enough frame. And Johan Krobela, he is big enough. And he gets over the try line. And that is now second try of the contest for the Bulls. Pollard is trying to play like Sasha, says Splash TV. And Hamish, the USA are in a World Cup Pool E, says Reno. And also we have got there, come on people, hit the like button please, says Ruth. But that is a great finish from the Bulls. They were close enough to the try line and then just spinning around almost sideways there for Johan Krobela. Able to spin through Frankie Horn, another man with headgear. In fact, there's a lot of men with headgear out there on the field, which doesn't make a huge amount of sense with the fact that it's about 37 degrees and they keep on having water breaks because they're overheating. Now Pollard. It's another important kick here for this Bulls side. Really hope the Sharks win against the Stormers, says Kahu. It would make it intriguing in terms of the top 8 situation. Right, that kick for Andre Pollard, just not quite striking it the way he would have liked, so it keeps the score at 12 points to 3. Yes, the Bulls, says Ben. And yeah, hoping that the Sharks win against the Stormers. I think that's more for your Glasgow side, though, more than anything else, isn't it? Now kickoff for Kieran Horn. Concussion is being taken seriously, I see. There's Getzenel. And Pollard is a bit off at the moment, says Kahu, and sack Pollard immediately and makes Sasha seems to have been more skilled in that part of the game, says Reno. Now Yandre Rudolph runs it back before he's dragged down by Creel. Being told to use it, Papier. This one probably one of his deeper kicks that he's had to make throughout the contest, only sitting 10 metres out from his own line, gets it towards the halfway, but doesn't manage to find touch. Now Kieran Horn looking to run this one back, puts the little chip in behind Kurtli Arnsa, waiting for the bounce of the ball. It goes to Papier. Instead, he was almost collided with a high shot there. High roof, says Joe. Free saying play on. 6.5 minutes still left in this first half. And after this game is finished, ladies and gents, there is another match taking place, another South African derby. That one will be between the Stormers and the Sharks. Now, another box kick from Ambros Papier. And again, he doesn't manage to find touch. Oh no, in fact, it might have been a quick throw on the far side of the field for Chris Smith. Goes to Angelo Davids. Tackled low by Ruan Vermaak. It'll be a tricky little period here for the Lions, but they do need to try within the next 6 minutes to feel a bit more comfortable heading towards the second half. Bounce pass from Kieran Horn. Awkward one for Horn to be able to clean up. I've never actually looked it up. Are Frankie Horn and Kieran Horn related? Or just same last name? Looking forward to that game, the South African hopefuls. Says Reno, and Pollard's kicking is getting worse and worse by the week, says Eugene. And the Beast Lockie Ferguson is playing against India today. Well, be sure not to give me too many spoilers, as I'm hoping to watch that game after the URC is finished. That will be the penalty to the Bulls. Off the feet there for the Lions. That will certainly hurt them. 5 minutes now left the first half, and another opportunity for maybe the Bulls to get something going. Angelo Davis looking towards the touch judge, saying that there was a bit of obstruction there. Now ready again for another line out for Johan Grobbelaar. So here we go like that. There we go. Last 5 penalties. It's interestingly enough gone Lions, Bulls, Lions, Bulls, Lions. So that means next penalty should be against the Bulls. Andre Pollard has an unbelievable BMT and maturity. He's an international player, actually. So there's imagination freaks. Now off to the right-hand side. Hendrik Vessels gets it up to the halfway. Bros Papier, sniping run around the breakdown. Now shifts left. Eldrick Lowe gives himself a little bit of momentum. Heading into the tackle with Frankie Horn. Now short to Harold Foster. Again, he's been heavily involved throughout this first half. Hendrik Vessels. Tackled by Klubber Kanye. That is a battle in the scrums that we haven't gotten to see a huge amount throughout this game. Eldrick Lowe goes on the outside. Jandre Rudolph back inside to Eldrick Lowe. Just held onto by Morne Vandenberg, but a lot of momentum now for the Bulls side on attack. Klubber Kanye trying to get that turnover, but he gives away the penalty advantage. Johan Grobbelaar now. He's already scored 1 try in this game. In fact, we've seen 1 try from a forward and 1 from a back throughout the first 36 minutes. Andre Pollard in behind. Quick hands from Williams. Rudolph. Is it to Jacobs, who has to cut back in? Was right on the touchline. Hi, Hamish says, Brandon Game, welcome in. What's your prediction on this game, Hamish? I'm thinking the Bulls at the moment, and of course it's easy to say that with them leading by 9. They've looked like the better team throughout the 37 minutes. They seem like they've got that little bit more intent. I think that's going to bode pretty well for them in the long run for this game. But now moving it away to the side, the Bulls straight out in front of the post. Pick and go from the captain. Kutsia gets it off to Andre Pollard, and he scores the try for the Bulls. That gives them number 3 in this first half. This has been one of the better halves we have seen from this Bulls side. Like they have said, sticking to a plan that is working extremely effectively at the moment for this Bulls side, just continuously attacking the offload from Marcel Kutsia, who celebrated it big time when he knew he had got it right. And Pollard trying to silence some of the haters. He gets himself a try in this matchup. And Bulls 27-21. And Sharks will be closer since the Stormers have said they want revenge, says Reno. And Bulls want to make their losing streak a thing of the past. And don't like camera zoom and angle, says Titanium. Don't like camera zoom and angle. As in like the cameras at the ground you're not a fan of. That kick has gone over from Pollard, making the score now 19-3. All the negative turned positive, says Ruth. Like they're just saying, the ball carriers of that Bulls pack seem to be helping them drastically. Pollard adds to the try-scoring tally. 1 more needed to get themselves the bonus point. Disallowed Andre Pollard try, says Mohadeen. Just slowly moving back to the halfway line there for the Lions. It seems like this has taken a lot of energy out of them. Now Jandre Rudolph. Let's hit it back up. He's very good at that, just continuously throwing himself at the opposition line. Making a couple post-contact meters, and Bros Papia box kick from in the 22. Kurtli Aronson chasing after this one, not as intently as he had earlier on, but that is because of that yellow card. And no TMO check at all for that one. Oh, another loose ball. The Lions looking for an offload. It will go to Stedman Hans, who then gives it to Foster. And Foster dragged down just short of the goal line. Offloads up to him, Bros Papia. Great distribution, I should say. And Kurt Liarense finishes it off. The Lions have their bonus point within the first half. This is a statement at the moment that they are making. Are the Bulls finally back after that losing streak? This could become 3 wins in a row. They both get 193 up. And excuse the 193, I was born in 1993. Says Kyle, and Pollard is one-dimensional. Says Splash TV, and let's go. Says Bullet. I mean, if he's one-dimensional, what does that say about the defence then? But the fact that he was able to score, surely if he's only got one plan, they should be able to stop him every day of the week. But he ran on through. Got himself the try. Bonus points, says Dale. So yeah, minimum, I would say from this game, we're expecting to see the Bulls get themselves at least 2 points. Damn weak defence, says Reno there. And that was too easy, says Big Rig. Yeah, just the gaps completely opening up. And it all came from just offloading that ball away for the Lions. Tried to throw it to someone who wasn't really there. The only man who was there was the Bulls with Stedman Hans. And the rugby, the URC rugby, the Lions sleep tonight, says Big Rig. And come on the Sharks, says Kahu. And Bulls, you said the Lions, says Mohadeen. And the bonus point says Dale. And the Bulls rules, says Ben. And there as well. But 26 points to 3. Currently, they're running past a whole heap of inflatable T-Rexes. I'm not sure who organised that, but they need a pay rise. Although that's going to be hot in those suits. I've just imagined being out there while the sun is out. And they're obviously going to make the T-Rexes race or something, because why else would they have them? So, yeah, it's going to be pretty warm. There's a mascot out there who will be losing about 3 kgs of sweat being out on the park. When it's the 7th semi-final. So the first one, it has taken place between South Africa and France. And that is at, in fact, New Zealand versus Fiji is first. That is at 7:52 p.m. New Zealand time, or 8:52 a.m. for you guys in South Africa. And then the second semi-final is France versus South Africa. That one is at 8:14 p.m. New Zealand time, 9:14 a.m. for you guys in South Africa. Can Pollard do the same thing, Sasha or Marnie, says Splash TV? No. But can Marnie and Sasha do the same thing that Pollard can do? The answer is no as well. What is the steepest South African rugby stadium, says Carl? I'm not sure about the steepest in terms of angles and whatnot. We have got there the Bulls on fire. Yeah, this has been a brilliant first half from a Bulls side that in certain other matches have been lacking a little bit of confidence. But, yeah, it just seems like at the moment something's clicking for this Bulls side. And we've got to remember, there was even a period throughout this first half, they were down to 14 men. The yellow card of Kurtley Ardense. What an excellent day to be a Bull, says Yanko. Pollard has won 2 World Cups, the other 2-0, says Peter. And also we have got there the Shark Tank, says Please and Tease. And also Boxer back and firing, says Royal. And every ball has played that ball, says Rufia. They've got plenty of dynamic ball runners. They've got Marcel Kurtzia, Elric Lowe, Jandre Rudolph. And then also Ruan Vermaak has been getting heavily involved in terms of the amount of carries that he has had. That Lions tight head prop isn't running back too quickly to help the defence, says Fletcher. So that is Azanati Klabakanye. But then at the same time, is it up to the props to be the ones who have to retreat? I know that some of them are very agile, but I just think that there are a couple more miscommunications that seem to be happening for the Lions at the moment in terms of their backs. Because, yeah, something's just not quite working at the moment for them. I should be drinking a beer instead of water, mate. I get a few stupid questions, but love some of your answers, says Brendan. Yeah, we do get some interesting questions on these streams. But no, if I was drinking beer every time I drank my water, I always say I'll probably be on the floor by now. It's a relatively large bottle. I think I've filled it up once or twice already today. Into about the 7th hour of streaming, maybe? Or 8th? I'm not too sure. I haven't done the maths just yet. But yeah, plenty more coming up in the near future. We have still got that game between the Sharks and the Stormers happening just around the corner. So anyone who is new, of course, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. In terms of what is coming up for these two games, or these two sides, for the Lions, the next game is taking place in 3 weeks' time, and that is going to be up against the Sharks. In terms of what is coming up after that, they've got the Stormers the week after, And then from there, Edinburgh in, I believe that will now be 7 weeks' time. And then in 8 weeks' time, they play the Dragons. So not actually a huge amount of games coming up for these sides, mainly because of the Six Nations competition. That is something that has affected it quite a bit. But it happens every year. We are used to it. For the Bulls, they have got a game in 4 weeks' time that will be going head-to-head up against the Sharks. That should be a great match. Definitely if the Bulls continue in the form that they're playing for this contest, and if the Sharks can somehow turn it into 2 in a row for their games up against the Stormers. The Bulls then play the Stormers. That is in 43 days' time. They then have Cardiff and then Munster, the game after that. We have got there. I hope I haven't jinxed it now. Do you think the Bulls have a stronger bench? I'm interested to see the 6-2 split in action. I think that Gumedi's been in great form. So, once again, I think that he's the type of player that could make a real impact when making himself present off the bench. In terms of this Lions side, Renzo Duplessis stands out. Landsberg too, and to be fair, Etene Oosterhuizen, another one that definitely is worth keeping an eye on. So I'm actually a bit undecided, if I'm being honest, in terms of who will be the stronger bench. Just trying to decide. Like, Hassan P can also be that little bit of an X-factor player if given the opportunity, which I think he will be given it in this one. It's whether or not they take Morne Vandenberg off early or late. That could be the difference maker. We have got the yes, they can. That's why I did not start after the Eden Park test. Says Splash TV. That's just not the reason, is it? But I think that Rassi, out of like any coach around the world, it's best not to try and predict what he's going to do next or the reasonings behind what he does, because then normally that's when he just changes them. How's the URC table looking now, says Yanko? At the moment, the way that it sits, this was how it looked heading into this game. Of course, there'll be a bit of a change with the fact that the Bulls currently looking like a bonus point victory. So they would actually move up into 7th and the Lions would drop to 8th. So both sides inside of the top 8. And then the Sharks actually have the opportunity of trying to boost themselves up to the top 8, depending on how much the Lions lose by in this game. And if the Sharks get a bonus point win, they can actually go above the Lions on the overall standings. So, yeah, still plenty to be gained for both of these sides. Even the Lions, they just need to start scoring some tries. Looking forward to the Six Nations to see the form of the teams. Will France have what they said they have to win? I think they'll be definitely one of the contenders. For me, there are 3, but I actually think England or France, they're my 2 favourites at the moment in terms of whether they'll be able to step up. Could be a different story, but I think they should be one of those 2, the one who lifts the title. We have got I'm off to watch my son's old team. After this, I won't be drinking water up there, says Fleshen, as that Bulls versus Stormers game on the 15th of March at Loftus. 1 second. I'll go like that and like that. I believe so, yes. He has got the Bulls as the home team. So I'd assume it is at Loftus. And it's probably getting close to sold out if they'll put the tickets up for sale. Or as soon as they do, I'm sure that plenty will be buying them for it. What happened with the Lions? I think the glory years of Lions are long gone. Not necessarily. I feel like the glory years of the Lions don't normally turn into years. They normally turn into weeks. And it's a week-by-week basis for that side. But, like, as long as they're still close to the top 8, that's the important thing. But at the same time, they have been so close on multiple occasions. You know, you look through at the last couple URC seasons, and it's just difficult. You know, they've been close to that top 8 and they're narrowly missing out. Challenge Cup just recently, they also missed out on the round of 16. Will the Stormers offer a gift to the Sharks? I don't know. I feel like the Stormers did not look like themselves in their last game up against the Sharks. And I really think Ireland or Scotland could win. They think it do. That's why it is exciting, says Big Rig. And haven't had glory here, says Please and Tease. Our Lions can come back in the second half. It would take a miraculous comeback from this Lions team. But once again, I don't think it can be completely counted out here, purely because of the fact that it's just so unpredictable in this sevens world. Like, you can seem like it's a one-sided affair, and then second halves happen. You know, Toulouse versus Glasgow. Perfect game that comes to mind. Toulouse looked like they were not going to lose in that game, and then somehow the just tides changed in that contest, and it just went downhill in a hurry. When will New Zealand have a new coach? I'd assume it would have to be before Super Rugby. I don't think they can afford to wait too much longer than that, just because like Super Rugby sides still need to know roughly what they're doing. And you'd assume that the All Blacks coach, if they are a Super Rugby coach, probably still have a contract of some sort that they have to deal with. And Sasha not used to Andre smashing him. Says Joe, yeah, although Andre Esterhuizen in his post-match interview actually said that Sasha gave him a couple bruises and cuts as well. So obviously Sasha was holding his own in that head-to-head and was giving him a little bit back for his troubles. But yeah, that's another one that, like, head-to-head wise, that's going to be enjoyable to watch, because we got to see it last week and it was physical, it was eventful when they went face-to-face, and then the fact that they have to do it again, like, if someone doesn't get injured, I'd say that that's a massive bonus, because they easily could. But now, second half, it's not a mile away from getting underway. Esterhuizen is superhuman. What is the club fortress of all fortresses in the URC or club? Says Kahu. Club fortress of all fortresses. Depends on who you talk to. Leinster don't lose too often at the Aviva. Glasgow don't lose too often with a home game in Scotland. The Bulls didn't lose a lot of home games at Loftus up until recent form. Why is Sasha the captain, not someone else? I think it's just because they don't really have another option. I know that Nedeling Foucher has had the role before, but they don't seem to go with him anymore in terms of the captain's option. So outside of him, who else would you look at as a possible Stormers captain? I don't know who else they'd actually consider. Maybe one of the locks, Salman Moura. We all know how popular he seems to be amongst Stormers fans, so I don't think they'll be chucking him in the deep end anytime soon. He probably wouldn't want the role anymore. Foster is so impressive. Hamish Difficult, man of the match. Yeah, he's actually gone really well. Damien Valimza. Okay, so you're going to put the pressure that Sasha's feeling on Damien Valimza instead, and see whether or not he can handle that pressure. It'd be interesting. I feel like he doesn't want it though, Damien Valimza. I think he's happy enough just playing his game. And I think Western Province has proven him for a Bok captain. Says please and tease. And Andre is a physical 10 and not a flashy one like Sasha. Says Onkara, who makes a better captain, forwards or backs. I think that forwards normally get in there a little bit more, or at least have a bit more communication with their pack. Sometimes as a back, I feel like there's that lost in translation part between the forwards and the backs as well. Some committed people in the crowd. There were some men in full body paint, all painted red for this contest, hoping to see their side go on, make some sort of second half comeback. Now, I will mention that man had like a massive pint, or I think it was bigger than a pint. It was probably what's the next one up? A jug, maybe, of beer. He was trying to scull the whole lot to drown the sorrows. Salman Murat in the team. Says, yo, man, I think he's missing from this next game for the Stormers, after he did get himself that yellow card early in the last match. Or Sia, maybe Sia will be the captain next year. It's hard to tell whether or not that is why he's been brought in for some of that leadership, or whether it is just they want an extra loose forward. And I love the gif of the dude at the point doing a massive stoic salute, followed by taking a swig. Says Big Rig, that ball's going to be loose already in the second half, and the Bulls have managed to get that possession straight back. So that is the worst possible start for the Lions, although actually not the complete worst. The worst would be conceding now, which, to be fair, they almost could have, but the Lions get the ball back after the Bulls knock it on. Bronson Mills gives it a huge boot downfield, not looking for the 50-22. Instead has kicked it down the middle of the park, Devon Williams from inside of his own 22 has kicked that ball down into touch. I went to see a start after this season, so he's still got a little bit of time left remaining before he does make that switch over to the Bulls. To the Stormers. We got Roof, I think you right. But it comes from the man himself, says Please and Tease. Do you think the Sharks win? I think they've got as good of a chance as they've ever had to be able to beat the Stormers. Definitely with the fact that they have the momentum from last week. Plus, they just look like a better side when the two sides faced off only a week ago. And with the fact that they're at home now, it should help a little bit. Wonder how loud the screaming was in the Lions locker room at halftime. I'd assume that the coach was not too happy with what he saw throughout the first 40. Now Chris Smith offloading there to Richard Creel. Another step from Morne Vandenberg. Now looking both ways. To the right-hand side. I see us starting in March. If you're talking about for the Stormers, no. For the Sharks, maybe. Arasi plays the type of mind games. Makes someone on the bench captain, says Xander. Morne Vandenberg. This time he is the one sending up the box kick. Angelo Davids was chasing after it. Picked up by Kutli Arnsa. Oh, he almost went through. And tries the offload, but it's a Stravino Jacobs drop. In fact, that time it was Devon Williams. Now moving away to the left-hand side. Some really good pace. Oh, that's a dirty Jersey scrag there. Got it a little bit too high. Bronson Mills does run that one. The two players for the Bulls, they were not back 10. Referee does say play on, though. Now Chris Smith is across to Reniard Nothangio. Yeah, pulling the man down by the back of his collar. In that case, now another step to Jared Keynes. Hasn't had a huge amount of carries today. Renzo Duplessis is an option to make his way off the bench. They'll probably need him in terms of what he's able to do with that ball in hand. Currently, we are seeing a lot more of the loose forwards in the second half for the Lions, though. A bit of a counter ruck from the Bulls. So they have fallen down, but they are going to receive the ball. While I watched the podcast with the Sharks owner, Marco said there is a big change coming. Didn't say more. Says Please and Tease. Ambros Papia. And goes back across to the left-hand side. And Roof, which part of the world are you in, says Joe. 10 metres out, and Bros Papia, another box kick. Does drift into touch that one. I think that first half ran relatively smoothly from what I can think of. I think there was that one stoppage of the TMO to check the aerial challenge from Kutli Arnsa, but outside of that, in a relatively free-flowing game. This one might actually only take around the 100 minutes. What changes can the Shark make before the end of the competition? I think the biggest change that they need to make is just play more like they did last week. And I think the aggressive mindset needs to come in a little bit more for that Shark side. They have to chase bonus points each and every week. Because if they're unable to do that, I'd say that they'll narrowly miss out. But if they're getting those bonus points for 4 or more tries, that's another good run forward from Ingo van Wyk. He's lost the headgear at this point in time. Big run from Klikane. Tackled by Jandre Rudolph. Now Morne Vandenberg. This could be a game of two halves. Atini Oosterhuizen. He's made his way off the bench for the Lions. Pressure in the breakdown again from Marcel Kutsia. And his fallback low diving tackle from Jan Hendrik Wessels. Bronson Mills can't quite sneak through this Bulls attack. Side that only had to make about 25 tackles throughout that first half. Kane doesn't end up going forward, instead losing about 5 metres for the Lions. Pick and go from Frankie Horn. Offloads to Morne Vandenberg, and they're on the board first in the second half. The Lions. This game may not be over yet. Glasgow versus Stormers and Glasgow versus Leinster could be the games that decide who hosts the final. Says Kahu, that is true. One moment, I'm about to sneeze, so I'll very quickly mute. There we go, we are good. That is also a very good build-up for the Lions. They just waited for the potential opportunity to get something going. The Bulls, they haven't made a huge amount of handling errors throughout the last about 25 minutes, but that was a big one. The Lions then get themselves that try number 1, and they can still work their way towards a bonus point of their own, either within 7. Oh, that kick has gone over from Chris Smith, making the score 10 points to 26, or 4 tries. The Bulls did it in the first half. Can the Lions potentially do it in the second? It'll come with JP is allowing them to play to their own strengths, says Please and Tees. Monte Funenberg, says Ruth. And there as well, for the first time you sneezed, says Mohadin. I know it's going to be a long afternoon when your neighbour is already blasting Backstreet Boys at 15:37 p.m. What song from the Backstreet Boys? Is it I Want It That Way? Because that's about the only Backstreet Boys song I can name, which would make my mum very disappointed. I could eat a well-made samosa myself, says DJ. Now I'm on Funenberg inside of his 22. I don't think I've ever had a samosa. Have to add it to the list. Was Villy LaRue axed? I don't know whether or not he was axed or whether there was some sort of injury for him, but they did put Devin Williams in that number 15 jersey for this game. At the moment, it seems to be working all right. So Nassim Carr is not a mile away from making his way onto the field for this Lions team. Or sorry, for this Bulls team, I should say. Are they making the changes too early here? I don't think so. I think they've got to try and shut down that momentum that the Lions are trying to create. So the last thing that you want to do is keep them in the game by having them score another try just around the corner. Kurtley Arendse, been a busy man throughout this match as well. Already had a yellow card in the earlier stages of the contest. Ambros Papier, 40 metres out from the line. Martinelli came back against Glasgow. Bulls got to be careful. Samosas and pakoras are brilliant starters. I've had a chicken pakora before. It was quite nice. Question is, do you eat samosas with or without dip? I have no idea. Is it supposed to be had with a dip or is it supposed to be had without the dip? What is in a samosa? If a samosa's got some sauce in it, I'd assume you just have it without the dip, right? Catchy tune though, not going to lie, says how's it? As long as you love me is the name, I think, says how's it? As long as you love me. I feel like if I told my mum the name of the song, she'd be like, yep, I know it. And she probably has it on a CD too. But Stedman Hans now, he's going to be tackled hard on the near side of the field by Chris Smith and Klakane. In fact, no, it would have been... Oh no, it was Klakane to make that tackle. I must have missed all the kicks, says Mohadin. I never dipped my samosa in anything. And no sauce inside a samosa. Okay, so you might need a dipping sauce of some sort. Eat it naked, curried, very spicy, and potatoes and spinach. Samosa's nice, says Ruth. And come on the Bulls. What are the Bulls doing? Yeah, they're starting to have a few more handling errors in just the recent times. I do see that Kopis Vesa has made his way onto the field. And it looks like the Lions are bringing on reinforcements as well here. It looks like 3 members of the front row. Yep, all new front row for this Lions side. It is Morne Brandon, Arif Skuman and Conrad van Vuren who has made his way on too. Samosa's filling can be anything. So what is the samosa itself? Is it like a pastry? Or is it like, what else would a samosa be like? Oh, PJ Bota very animated as he's made his way off the field. He is yelling at the bench. Oh, he's the best scrum in the URC? Depends on the day, really. The Bulls on paper should have the best scrum, but whether or not they actually do is a different story. How's it, brother Hamish? How have you been? Doing very well, Birdie. Hopefully you've been keeping well too. You've been enjoying your 2026. Casing is pastry. Per mean loaf. I like chicken samosas, but they put so much chili in it, it burns my soul. And a bit like a phyllo pastry. Maybe I should try making them. Making them from scratch is probably a brutal time though. And I can guarantee you I would mess them up. Anything I love from veggie to cheese, anything in between. I've just seen here, Bulls have only made 37 tackles throughout this game thus far, compared to the 107 tackles that we've seen made by the Lions. Seen on Google, they put a dip with pakoras. They do. Although I don't normally have the dip, I just eat the pakora by itself. Tamarind dip is okay with a samosa. With or without sauce, a samosa, finely chopped veg and chilies inside. Pastry batter, chickpea flour. Chickpea flour I think is the same one for the pakora, isn't it? If I'm not wrong. Triangular pastry outside, filled cushions, filled with spicy curry stuff. Well, there we go. Now, scrum feed. Ball on the short side for the Lions. Morne Fundenberg showing some nice pace. Chris Smith with the quick hands. Out to Angelo Davids, who gets it up to halfway. It's a good start here for the Lions in the second half. That's not what they would have liked, though. The first touch for Conrad van Vieren is a knock on, but in fact, they're going to have an offside advantage anyway. Go back for the penalty. Don't know, want me to cancel, don't you like me? Don't know, want me to want me the... Wait. Don't know, want me the channel, don't you like me? Where's that come from, Mohadeen? What was your last comment? You said per mean loaf, which I assume you meant put meatloaf. Maybe. I dipped my samosa in my wife. Oh. Chickpea flour batter with finely chopped veggies in your samosa. Well, I'll have to see if I have some in the freezer, says Please and Tease. Some frustrating here for the, or frustrating-ish moments, I will say, for the Lions coach, although it's not over yet. 5 penalties against the Bulls. There's a youngster called Kai Pratt coming through the junior ranks. Definitely one to watch in the future. Don't know if I watched the Leinster game. Could be a hiding. Says Kahu. That one's going to be stolen at line-out time by the Bulls. Chicken samosa are nice. Says Mohadeen. Chicken samosa. Okay. I assume that still has veggies and chili in it, right? Can you have a non-spicy samosa? Because I don't handle spice well. I had a KFC hot and boneless spicy piece the other day. It was very hot. Even though most people say that it's not even like remotely spicy. But I was burning up. Samosas beef are lovely coriander. I'll throw in again here for the Lions. Stolen twice in a row now. And that's a huge hit on Johan Grobbelaar. Been smashed in that tackle. The ball has popped out. Where did that convo come from for the samosas? I actually don't know who started that one. A Cornish pasty. Says DJ. Popcorn. Popcorn and a samosa. Bacon and cheese samosas are also decent. Says how's it? As a Taff, I love a lamb samosa. It sounds like the samosa stuff I have to start getting behind because there's a lot of it around in terms of flavours by the sounds of it. We'll have to see what's out there. Malaysian samosas. Now, another scrum feed. Morne Fundenberg to put this ball in. And ref tells them to use it. It is there, and that turf just got wrecked from the players ripping it up. Another knock on. This time it is Henko van Wyk, who can't quite hang on to it. It's just drop after drop. At the moment, I see Marco van Staden's made his way onto the field. Said that he's ditched the headgear as well. The only samosas that are around here are cocktail vegetable. That doesn't sound that nice. I wanted one with meat. Chicken samosas are nice. No veggie can be separate. And vegetable samosa are the best. Oh, so actually the type that I just looked at. Ingredients: cabbage, potato, onion, carrot, spring onion, ginger. That actually sounds all right, to be fair. Kind of sounds like a mini spring roll with potato. It's one of the big differences. Yeah, I just Google it. I want it with me. If it ain't triangular shape, don't trust it. Says, how's it, my bro? Now scrum penalty going the way of the Bulls, or at least a scrum advantage. Now it's Ravino. Jacobs breaks the line down the wing. Some good pace shown by the Bulls winger. Now flicks the ball up to Stedman Hans. I think him and Kurtley Ardense have actually swapped jerseys at the break, because I swear I just saw Ravino Jacobs with 14 on his back rather than 11. Now off the side, Harold Foster, that was very close to him getting down. Oh, what a cheeky try that is. They thought that they had stopped him, the Lions. They were trying to hold him up. And in the end, he just kept on wrestling and then just slams that ball down, reaches out. And Harold Foster has a double. Where are the Kiwis in this game? Come on, man. Says Nas Williams. Yeah, not a huge amount of New Zealanders playing in the URC South African sides. Well, that's ball game, says Big Rig. It's not a rugby stream without the talk of food. I feel like rugby and food go hand in hand, don't they? We have got the meat, says Robert. And also, yes, and a popcorn and a cool drink, says Mohadim. But yeah, they thought that they were going to be able to hold up Harold Foster, but all it did was give him time to be able to reassess and see how he was going to be able to get over that try line. Currently, Andre Pollard, he's sitting with 75% accuracy. And that one has gone over too. You mentioned food and everyone will chime in, says Robert. And also Foster, yes, hat-trick coming, says Ruth. Yeah, currently sitting on 2 tries for that man, especially with Carter in here. She's always going on about grubs, says Sock. Is this the game that Harold Foster's stepping up fully to cement that number 12 jersey for the Bulls? I know that they've got Sebastian de Klerk as well in the mix, but could you go Foster and de Klerk as that midfield? To be fair, Stedman Hans hasn't done a lot wrong throughout this game, so it's probably pretty harsh taking him out of the lineup, but I don't know, it's gone all right at the moment. They always have that saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. There's a knock on there from the Bulls, so there is going to be a reset now in favour of the Lions. Can still work their way towards that bonus point. Hamish, you eat fish cakes? Not really. I'm not a massive fish fan. Although I do like a battered fish. That's about as far as my fishiness goes. Leinster need a big win here. Our points differential is not as good as Glasgow or the Stormers, says Kahu. Calling 3 tries for Faf de Klerk in this one, says Matthew. And Bronson got game 2. That is true. Bronson Mills, he's been handy enough in that 12 jersey for the Lions. And local rugby clubs in the UK try to put on a decent curry on match day, says DJ. You see, our cricket team, we used to do like a barbecue every once in a while, but that hasn't really happened a lot. How about the score of halftime? Halftime score, says Eliza. So the score at halftime was 26-5. Is the way that it was sitting, but now 33 points to 10. Bulls, they have scored themselves one more try with Harold Foster. The Lions, they got themselves the early try in the half, coming for Morne Vandenberg. Looking for another one now. And Hamish, how the devil are you? Says Aaron, doing very well. We've still got another game just around the corner between the Sharks and the Stormers, which I'm thoroughly looking forward to as well. Bronson Mills goes out to Richard Creel. Inside pass. Good early tackle made by Kurtley Ardense. He is now wearing the number 11 jersey, which I swear he wasn't earlier in the game. I'm pretty sure he was wearing number 14, so I wonder if that's just in case. He's going to get himself another yellow card. That ball stolen by Yandre Rudolph. That looked like he could have really badly done his knee in the process of trying to kick that one, but the Lions have managed to keep this ball in. Bronson Mills showing off some stepping, but Yandre Rudolph, he twisted his knee really awkwardly as he was coming down. Chris Smith trying to go through, looks for the offload to Darian Landsberg, who offloads to Kieran Horn. Pass one more on the outside. Jared Ken's not going to have the pace that is needed. Also didn't decide to pass. And Morne Vandenberg. Back to Frankie Horn again. And how about the score at half time? Oh no, I read that one, didn't I? And oh dear, ouch. Says Ruth. Now back across to the left. Klakane. Oh, big bump off from Yandre Rudolph, who's still trying to play on one leg at this point in time. I think that he may have gotten a bit of an awkward stinger in the way that he landed. Yeah, hopefully I'll get one today, or at least a good pie and mash, says Fleshton. They've got the advantage at this point in time, and that will be the penalty. They wanted to take it quickly for Morne Vandenberg, but he wasn't quite on the mark. If I tries, what a sight. A shame I can't watch. Keep up the good work, Hamish and chat. Have a lovely weekend. Says Hano. So yeah, you'll be more than happy with what we've seen from the Bulls so far in this contest. Foster stepping up big time in that number 12 jersey. The loose forwards are working very well also. Now 20 minutes remaining. They will have the cooling break as they had in the first half. That will be coming up in the relatively near future. And whose capital letters? Says Naz Williams. Have you ever heard of Bushman Mick from Australia? Don't think so. Is it like a YouTuber? Right, looks like Yandre Rudolph is going to be all right to continue in this game. Bulls, yes, 60 points to 10, says Ben. And always capital Osborne and Wellington. All right, line out throw now again. Looks like quite a few medics running onto the field, so they might actually take the drinks break now. I think Devin Williams' hand was bleeding. I have a soft spot for Aussie Man reviews, says Big Rig. Okay, I was wondering whether or not they were going to say about Devin Williams coming in due to the injury of Billy LaRue, but it just sounds like he was the straight replacement for this contest. This is game boring you. The Lions don't play entertaining today. Says Xander. It is slightly more one-sided. That was not while I'm yawning, though. That's because I've been up for 21 hours. And Kia ora, Ruth. Hope all is well and you're on your best behaviour, says Nazi Williams. And medical emergency for Rudolph's knee, says Ruth. So yeah, it does seem like it looked like the cooling break, but not really. How about a halftime score of both teams, says Eliza. So once again, the halftime score was 26 points to 3. Now taken by the Lions. Looking to get this rolling ball going, but it's gone straight down, and there's a little knock on from this Lions side. Mistake that they could not afford. What do you nibble on, Hamish, says Joe Man. What do I nibble on? I don't even remember what I had for tea. I think I had toast. Just joined Jan Hendrik Vezel's ban is finished. It is. He still looks like he's trying to get another one, though, to be fair. He did a big chopping tackle on a guy's knee earlier on that didn't get checked. But, yeah, he's had a bit of a rough path back a little bit, you know. He hasn't quite been the same player that he was before that ban. Commentating on the Stormers Sharks, we certainly are. I feel I'm not welcome anywhere, says Mohadeen. Is that like in real life? Or just in general? Magnum or McFlurry? I'm a Magnum man. I haven't actually ever had a McFlurry, believe it or not. That I can think of anyway. Now off to the left-hand side. That's normally because the ice cream machine is broken here in New Zealand, though. Bros Papier rolls it back 5 metres out from the line at this point in time. I did Klakane play because I haven't heard his name. He is out there. He's had a couple decent carries, the big man, but he's probably been a little bit more quiet than he would have liked to be, mainly because of what we're seeing from that Bulls loose forward trio. They've been doing a lot more of the running out of the two sides. Ready for the line out. It is Morne Brandon, the replacement hooker here. So 18 minutes left on the clock. They've gone over the top. Andre Pollard steals the line out. I believe that's like 3 in a row that we have seen for the Lions that haven't been successful, or at least there might even be 4 if you count the knock on. Now, Emirates Papier. Oh, Darian Landsberg's just absolutely launched someone's head gear. He is not happy. Goes back into the pocket to Andre Pollard. Sun is still out for this contest, so making it high and difficult under the high ball. Kurt Liarense has landed awkwardly after going up for the high ball. This is a concern. He's only just recently returned from his injury. Kurt Liarense, at this point, I don't think he's made his way back up to his feet. Oh, yeah, he almost hyperextended that knee. And with the fact that he has only just recently came back, like I mentioned, that is not ideal for Kurt Liarense. He just, something tweaked at the back there. That could actually be serious. And the score says Rian at the moment, the score is 33 points to 10 with 17 minutes remaining, but this looks like it might almost be a stretcher for Kurt Liarense, so I believe both sides are going to be taking that drinks break that I mentioned about and come on the Bulls, says William. Liarense off. I think he will be. Harold Foster, 66% of the votes for man of the match. That's how you know it is thoroughly deserved, that everyone is on the same page, saying that man has been the best out there on the park today. Ligament, says Ruth. Yeah, it just looked awkward. You know, when you see that knee kind of buckle in the wrong direction, that's what we kind of saw there. Again, it's just the last thing that he would have been after in this game. Definitely with the fact that he's only recently returned. I will mention this is not the last live stream of the day, ladies and gentlemen. We have got another one taking place tomorrow and also taking place in only about 40 minutes' time. That is going to be the contest between the, who's playing it? It is the Stormers and the Sharks. They are going head-to-head. He's not well again, or maybe won't play for the Springboks. Yeah, if he has hurt himself badly here, he sadly will not be back out there for the Springboks season. But depends on the extent of the injury. But they are still kind of trying to take all the precautions. I say he is a Bull or a Lion. He is a Bulls man through and through. Looking forward to seeing the Sharks beating the Stormers. And also kneecapped Ouch. And when is the next Springbok game, says Big Rig Joe? They are playing in July as the next contest for the Boks. They may have an early game in June if they have it all organised and sorted out, but I believe July is the next one for them. That just about sounded like they said Kurt Liarense is going to continue in this game, which is quite a decision. Definitely, like I mentioned, just coming back from injury, you don't want to get it wrong. End up with some sort of more severe injury in the process. I rode my left knee for years from rugby, but never regret playing the game. Right, scrum feed down. Hassim Pede. Any other games after this one? So we have got Sharks versus Stormers. That is taking place straight after this contest, and then the game after that will be at around 7:30 a.m. or sorry, 7:30 p.m. 7:30 p.m. New Zealand time, and that is back into the sevens. Do you think the Springboks will play the Barbarians? Probably not. I think they had their game up against them last year. Normally it's a rotation type of thing for the Barbars. Now Richard Creel, tackled by Nassim Carr. Kurt Liarense are risking a lot now. Back across Bronson Mills. Low tackle made by Harold Foster. Oh, that one's actually turned over in the breakdown. I'm not actually sure who that was. I think it was the number 13 in this case, Stedman Hans. Managed to get it back for this Bulls side. Still 16 minutes remaining in the contest. Shoveled on by the Bulls. Andre Pollard puts it in behind. And that one will just about go dead. No, cleaned up. And once again, Kurt Liarense chasing after that one. Hurts his knee in the process of going after the ball. Yeah, he doesn't look good at the moment, Liarense. He is very slow getting back for the Bulls. You got to take him off here. They're winning by 23 points. Him being on or off is not going to determine this result. And at some stage, you got to make that decision of, is it worth the risk of potentially losing him for more of the season? There's also a boxing match, Lopez versus Shaka Stevenson. If anyone's interested to see soccer, I also know that UFC 235, is it? It's taking place. A big driving tackle on Andre Pollard by Morne Brandon. David Creel breaks through, offload to Ambros Papier. And that is the try for the Bulls that should well and truly secure this game and take away the chance of a bonus point for being within 7 for this Lions side. Bad management, take him off. Yeah, I assume Keegan Johannes hasn't made his way on the field yet. So, that should be the option. Or at least an option of, rotating. They don't need to risk his injury more. And go the Volk, says Naz Williams. See the difference between these teams and Glasgow's win against Munster's experience, says Kahu. And yep, go Volk, says Sock. And there's well, but a great finish. And already, almost obstruction on Mako van Staden there. And like I said, it sounds like it is just going to be straight away awarded without any extra checks. Oh. Hang on. TMO almost sounded like he was getting involved, but no, he's decided against it now. They also managed to add the additional 2, so 10 points to 40 now, the way that this game is sitting. See, that's starting to get more in the direction that people probably were expecting for this Bulls side. They are a dangerous team. They've had a rough run. Maybe it's just starting to turn around now. Now, kicked off long by the Lions. Extremely long. It's well taken, though, by Maka van Staden. Lions go back to losing, says Mohadin. Where's George? So it's currently 3 a.m., so I would assume he is in his bed at the moment, sleeping. Actually, he may not be in his bed. I think he might be maybe on a trip at this stage. I know that he was leaving for Wanaka today. I don't know whether or not he was staying the night or only gone for a day, but he might actually be in Wanaka at the moment. 13 minutes remaining. Or these two sides, and Bros Papier, he's done well controlling this game and probably did thoroughly deserve that try. He's up to 15% of the vote now, but Harold Foster still on that 64. What are the Bulls doing differently now? That they are playing like a winning team, says Xander. Here's the Bulls 60 points to 10, and hopefully this is what the Sharks will do against the Stormers as a Glasgow fan, and if the Lions play like this against the Sharks, they won't be in the top 8, says Reno. And yeah, now they've got 3 weeks to try and work out what went wrong in this contest. Richard Creel tried to pass it off to Bronson Mills. That is one thing that's gone wrong, another knock on. And 40 points to 10, unbelievable, says Kyle. Once again, just lacking that little bit of execution. Oh, Bronson Mills going over to the referee saying that someone deliberately, it did come off the hand of Andre Pollard. He has a decent argument there. The first knock on will be off Andre Pollard, so they do actually get themselves the scrum feed now, the Lions. Wanaka's a beautiful place, rather live there than here in Auckland, says Naz Williams. And ball's well away now, says Ruth. And there too. I don't think they'll rule it as a deliberate knockdown from Andre Pollard, but it will still be a knock-on nonetheless. "11 minutes left for the Lions to score 3 times. That's how it sits at the moment. If they were to score 3 times, they'd move up to 31, which still wouldn't give them the second bonus point, but it would give them 1 from this contest. I think the Bulldogs winning now, says Kyle. And can this Bulls team beat Glasgow? I think if they play like they have here, away from home up against Glasgow, they'll give them a really decent contest. That game taking place at around, I want to say 40 days' time. In fact, it may actually be a little bit more than that. Going off to the left now, another drop ball. Now back across to the right-hand side, kicked him on from Kutliarnse, and that one's gone out on the full. But the advantage was still in play, helping the Bulls, says Mohadin. Right, no advantage. Now going back, but another drop ball from Morne Brandon. Why is the team not taking them off? Taking them off when the team is already leading. It's so unwise. Yeah, I don't think they've made that change of Keegan Johannes yet. Oh, now it's taking place. Now, is that for Kurtley Arendse or is that for someone else? If this is for anyone but Arendse, that would make absolutely no sense. Glasgow been hit pretty hard by the Stormers lately. They're taking Harold Foster off for Keegan Johannes, which now means that they won't make that sub of Kurtley Arendse. He is out there for the full 80 now. So if he does his knee throughout this last 10 minutes and ends up injuring himself for the whole season, they have no one to blame but themselves. Glasgow's been hit pretty hard by the Storms lately. They need a win. Says Big Rig, who has scored today, says LeBron. So there's been many tries throughout this game. Harold Foster has got himself 2 tries in this match. We have seen Andre Pollard got one, Emirates Papier got one, Johan Krobela got one. I think that's most of the tries for the Bulls, or in fact there might be one more that I haven't listed. And then in terms of the Lions, they've just had that 1 try, and that was scored by Morne van den Berg. Our Bulls go for the score. 200 plus watching. Come on, like and subscribe. Says Nazi. I guess they want him hurt. And game is done. It doesn't matter, says Reno. And there too. So far, tackles made throughout this contest. The Bulls have made 61, missing 19. The Lions side have actually made 143, missing 16. So they have a much higher tackle completion in this game, but you would not think it by the way that the scoreboard currently sits between these two sides. Oh, and Bros Papier, mistake off the back of the scrum, ends up knocking it forward. Now another chance for the Lions on attack. And Blue Bulls. Here's Danville in there. That is well done from the Lions, just to put on that little bit of extra pressure at scrum time. But now, 8 minutes is not a long time in a game of sevens. It can absolutely fly by. I feel like that's what we're going to see here for this Lions team. As Papier related to the ref in the Springbok camp, I'm not actually sure if there's any relation there. Pretoria are going to be wild tonight, and Bulls fix the mistakes. What did you make of Glasgow beating Munster with so many people out? Says Kahu, they did well in that game. And now no hands is the call from the referee. He's controlled this game relatively well. We haven't had a huge amount of stoppages throughout the contest, but now 20, oh no, in fact 30 metres out from the line, and it is another penalty going the way of the Lions. Kewan Horn just trying to get his boot back on his foot. Okay, I didn't quite catch what that penalty was actually for there. Kewan Horn just having some troubles with the boot, like I mentioned, and Nas was a blue ball. Pretoria are going to be wild. The ball says Rian. Yeah, not rolling away actually that time. And that was against Cobus Visa. And India versus New Zealand, 78 for 2 after 8.5 overs. Here's Oreno. Okay, be sure not to put too many more of the updates on that game. I'm hoping to watch it after that Stormers versus Sharks one, but it's going to be very hard to avoid spoilers up until that stage. Pretoria, they drink brandy on ice, no Coke, says Xander. Just the 6 minutes now remaining. Gumedi has made his way on for Yandre Rudolph. Sorry, mate, yeah. Says Reno, no worries. The good news is it's early enough in the game that like anything can still happen in that contest. And you also didn't even say who was batting, so that's ideal as well. I'm a Pepsi Mac guy anyway, says Big Rig. Ambros Papier, ball in the hands of the Bulls once more. Andre Pollard goes on the outside to David Creel, looking for the grubber. It's well shut down by the Lions initially, but the ball bounces straight back into the hands of the Bulls. Kurtley Arendse running on that knee, gives it on the inside to Gumedi, and he will score the try. He is an absolute tank. I give me some Hamish by giving him fake results. And I was like, come on the Bulls, says William, but that is now given the chance for the Bulls to be able to bring up 50 in this contest. They just keep on going. And this time it is Mpilo Gumeri does manage to score it off of the bench. He's actually the first loose forward, I believe, for the Bulls to be able to score in this contest. And all Pepsi and Coca-Cola makes me feel sick. I think it's the sugar, but I love Pepsi Max, says Big Rig. Yeah, Gumeri in a real fight with Hassan Peed there to try and get himself over the line. Had to spin and all sorts. Got the ball, says Rian, in there too. Points difference is coming now, says Reno, and it is much needed for this Bulls side. And it's going to really hurt this Lions team too when we look at it. Their points differential was -8. Currently, the way that it sits, they will be at -43 or somewhere around there. And the Bulls, their points differential of -30 will now become +5, which puts it as a pretty handy one. The overall scheme of the competition, they would also move up into 7th place, dropping the Lions down to 7th, down to 8th, with still time remaining in this round. And 22 hours catching up. Says please and tease a little bit sleep deprived, I'd say. But I feel like I'll wake myself up in between the streams and I'll be all good to go. The next one that we are doing is starting at around 27 minutes. So I have about a 20-minute break in between the streams where I can get up, walk around a little bit. Look at the use down there in 3rd place. Here's Naz Williams. I'm told to use it again for Embros Papi. It seems like he's going to be playing the full game as that number 9, seeing as they went with a 6-2 split without the replacement halfback. Stepping from Keegan Johannes, tackled by Mills. Told to use it again. Jacques Vene was calling for it. Oh, Ioane there in 3rd place. Hey, points really hurt in the URC if you lose really badly, and that is another penalty to the Bulls. The chance of 50 still well and truly on. 3 minutes remaining in this matchup now. A massive amount of time left. And I hope so. Can't imagine rugby without your stream. I still got the 7s tomorrow. So 7s, by that 7s, I would have had a decentish sleep. I'll probably end up going to sleep after that Sharks versus Stormers game for a few hours at least. And then I'll be all fired up, ready to go. For the next one, you can go KFC in that time, mate. So here's Naz Williams. Our Lions haven't turned up today. They have been comprehensively beaten. Yeah, they just have looked like the worst side out there on the field, to be honest. The Bulls have been a lot more clinical than we've seen them in previous weeks. And maybe momentum's starting to favour them now. And Bros Papier manages to step through, passes on the inside. Keegan Johannes scores, and that is the 50 points now. Do you have rugby-related dreams? Sometimes. I've told this story a couple times, but my mum thought I was on the phone at about 6 a.m., but it turned out I was dreaming about commentating rugby. So I was sleep-talking, commentating a rugby match. Way too easy, no defence, says Reno there. And also, I would 100% watch on MMA pay-per-view with a card of rugby players. Would it be some great matchups, says Big Rig. Think India can put a rugby team for the URC? Probably not. I don't think. Not now, anyway. They'd have to probably build up their rugby a little bit more. Now, 90 seconds left. Shot clock's going to be used up as much as he can for Keegan Johannes. Is Pollard still on? He is, yes. Or I believe he is. Unless he was actually who went off for David Krill. But I don't think he was. Then maybe he was actually, now that I think about it, because Keegan Johannes has taken that kick. Did Papier have a hat trick? He is not. I think he's just got the 1 try. Hamish would have loved to see that sleep stream, says Reno. Yeah, I don't know whether or not it was making sense or not, but it must have been close enough that my mum thought I was actually having a conversation about rugby to someone. Oh, ball now with the Lions. Told to leave it there for Maka van Staden. So he decides not to leave it and gets himself penalised, as he normally does, van Staden. Now, chance here late for this Lions team. Changed the score, says Mohadeen, and also sang the national anthem with the Wales team. But didn't play in the dream, or play in a dream once, says DJ. And you do have a team play against Nepal. It'll take a few generations to get anywhere. That's definitely not right, mate. Dreaming about rugby commentary and not nights out, says Fleshin. It's over, says Brian in there too. Yeah, just a couple seconds remaining. And that one is going to be well taken by Bronson Mills. Bulls, they'd love one last turnover in this game with a 42 points differential. As a 45, it is 52 on the scoreboard at the moment. Oh, almost a kick in the face for Hassim Pede. Across to Renzo Duplessis, gets back up to his feet. 7 meters out. Oh, Morne Smith was very wobbly on his feet there. I don't know whether or not that was just because his boot got stuck. Here comes Bronson Mills, big sell on the dummy. Oh, win himself. He had to score it because he had a man open on the outside. But the Lions will get the last try in this one. You look blurry, says Mohadeen. Well, it could be the connection. On my end, it doesn't say that I'm blurry, which is good. So yeah, it might be your Wi-Fi. Brave Lions going to the corner, says Reno. They'll skip past Bronson Mills. Let's get over to score that try. What's the latest on the New Zealand coach? At the moment, Dave Rennie, Jamie Joseph, they are the two front runners, and then it's pretty much been opened up to any other international coaches who are interested. So, yeah, we'll wait and see who the other candidates will end up being. And the Chris Smith now lining up this kick. 15 points to 52 to add the additional 2 and cut down on that points differential back to 35. It has gone over, and that is the end of the contest. 52-17. The end score in this match, a brilliant win for the Bulls to now give them a 3-match winning streak across the URC and the Champions Cup. But nonetheless, I do thank you all very much for tuning in. Of course, we have got that next game between the Sharks and the Stormers just around the corner. That one we are starting the stream in 20 minutes time, so be sure to stick around for that. Thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you all for the next one.